Hey y'all, Josh Greathouse here, creator of Bang the Battle of the Tiger. I'm back on an MC, so that can only mean one thing. And that is, I got a box. Well, not just a box. Volume 2 came out. I'm excited about this one. Let's talk, man. I get to talk about this. Yay! So before I get into the review of this book, which, man, I'm excited about getting into the review of this, I do want to talk about the difference between this and this. So both of these are independent books, but they're not the same. This one has an Amazon show, and let's be honest, Kirkman is a beast in this industry. I mean, G.I. Joe's, Transformers, I wouldn't call them indie. I wouldn't call them small anymore. I'm not saying it's bad. You know, I'm not saying any of this is bad. It's just more stating facts. And the other thing about this is I can buy this anywhere. Cheap graphic novels, Walt's Comic Shop, BD Cosmos, for example, even on Amazon. Now this, though, this is true independence. This is a very small publisher printing out a limited amount of books. And you want to know how I can tell, like one easy way you can tell this is limited? No ISBN. So this is the kind of thing, yeah, if you want this, you got to go through the Kickstarter. I hope one day they do a paperback, but I will say this, though. This is part of my yearly budget now, is buying these. There's going to be 5 in total, and I also think the creator, Drew Hayes, he passed, unfortunately, many years ago. I've never had the chance to meet him, but I think this is truly what he wanted. This is his idea. So, yeah, let's go into the overview of what I got with this and the Kickstarter and this book overall. Hey, y'all. So this is a review of the book, but I also kind of want to show you what the Kickstarter experience is. So this time around, last time it came with wrapping paper. This time, everything came in a nice tote bag. And my only issue with this is I want to use this for groceries and stuff, but at the same time, I don't want to ruin this. But this is such an, I won't lie, for a Kickstarter, it's a nice touch to have everything in here. Hell, this wouldn't be a bad way to store stuff. So, like I said, I appreciate that there's clearly is an evolution between book 1 and book 2. So even just little things like this, like a nice tote bag. Just like last time, this came in everything came in a nice big box. It has all the printing on the sides and then the front. I'm definitely keeping these. I don't usually keep these for absolutes and stuff. For these ones, I'm keeping just because I do not want to try to replace this later on in life. Then got all the stuff that came in inside of it. So the first thing is, and it's a little touch, but like I said, my name, they have my backer number, everything, all this information here. But clearly they're printing out, taking time for each person. So that says a lot to me. Got a postcard telling us book 3 is coming in spring 2025 and what issues it's covering. So excited for that. Definitely they already got my money. We got the book itself, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Then we got what's in here. All right, y'all. Next up we got are the little cards and everything that else came with this. We got an enamel pin with the word balloon saying crow. This is their version of the F-bomb, basically. So it's actually really well done. Thick one. One I appreciate. This bookmark, it's kind of I like the design. I like the idea. It's his knife. And it's cool. I just don't see me ever using this, honestly, but not a bad way to go. Then we got these, the cover cards, which I got mixed feelings with these, to be honest. They're well done. They got a very nice satin feel to them and some great art. But the problem is, I want this in the book. But like I said, small company trying to keep all the costs down. So I kind of get it. But what's crazy with these covers, and the thing I like about Poison Elves the most is it's a dude with some tools. And like I said, you can see the mark making. And man, these are some just provocative and great covers. Especially this. I love this cover. This issue, man, this one had me just going, holy shit, holy shit. By the way, if you can't tell, this is for mature audience. This is not for children. This is another issue we're going to get into, sex and violence. This was such a great issue. And you got some classic returns like the Purple Marauder. But like I said, it's crazy how you kind of go for something goofy like that to this. And this is another cover I love just because it's not even the idea, it's the execution of it, especially with the choice of colors with the font. and just our main character just beaten up. And this was a fun moment too. And this cover, even before I read, this one really gripped me. Just the like look of it, the emotion. Like, I couldn't wait to read this. So this is the first 20 that after he officially signed with series. And we'll kind of go into this a little bit more, but it's interesting because they renumbered this, but this is a continuation of volume 1. Like, they reboot the number, but it's definitely a continuation. And like I said, I love these. I just wish this was part of the book. I get they're trying to keep costs down, but I guess I'll say this: this is a great way for at least for us to enjoy these covers. So let's get into the main thing. Let's get into the book. So a couple things. One, the first book felt like it was written by someone in their late teens, early 20s. This one feels definitely written by someone in their late to mid 20s. And what I mean by that is, like, you're still young, you're still going out and partying, but all of a sudden you're kind of looking at life and like, I need to figure out what I'm doing. I need to get a job. And that's what we got here. So once again, we start off with panel used as a cover. And same as last time, little emblem here. There's no, sadly to say though, there's no emblem here. We do have this nice black bookmark, which for a book like this, I always appreciate. And once again, using the vellum, this clearish type paper with the printing of what is the sanctuary. Basic page, the legal. The introduction, this one's written by an intern who then became an editor. I do recommend this. It doesn't spoil anything, but it gives you an idea of who Drew was, which is very helpful for a book like this. Because some characters can kind of outlast their creators. This is one that's so tied to the creator. It's like you can't have Poison Elves without Drew. But great little setup. Now, the other thing with this, there are X amount of prose. It's not a lot, and actually it's used well in various points. Like this one, it's a flash forward of a character talking about when he first met Lucifer. So, Lucifer's been retired, living out his sailor days, coming back to land to notice of eviction. His house is a mess. His living girlfriend is spending all the cash and not on rent. And like I said, this was written by an early 20-year-old, so I'm not going to lie there. What's interesting, though, is Lucifer's not a good guy. He is a monster in a lot of ways, but he's a monster who doesn't want to be. And it's definitely like circumstance, product of his environment, I guess is the best way to put it. And what's interesting is, so in this first bit, we got this dwarf who comes in and attacks him, takes the his girlfriend as hostage. They have an argument. Lucifer kills her. Now, you know, it's kind of male fantasy, and I kind of wrote this off at first like, okay, this is just kind of bad writing. They addressed it later on, and what I like about this is they never go like, oh, his actions are right or he was in the right, but it does show his state of mind. So we got the dwarf going to this burnt down church. He's telling them like, let me in, I paid you, open up the gates. Some magic happens. Burnt down church doesn't look so burnt down. And we enter into the sanctuary. Now, while the sanctuary, forgot about this. So the sanctuary is run by these two brothers and team of assassins. I won't lie, this is where it gets a little difficult with Poison Elves at times, because like these two brothers look a lot alike. What you have to do is like one's always in black, one's always in white, and missing part of his ear. There's another character, not quite, but it's another blonde elf from the last story that looks like them. And like I said, definitely male fantasy, but his women are very strong characters. Like, she's actually become one of my favorites. The other interesting thing is, while this is going on, we go back to the murder case, and we get introduced to this guy, Captain Voodoo. Vidu, this takes place like in a medieval fantasy, but he's a guy that's trying to use forensic and evidence to like deal with the crime. So this is an interesting sub-story because you get like the old world trying to mix with the new world. And like I said, it goes to interesting places. So our man here, this whole storyline, this is the Sanctuary storyline, which is talking about this Assassin's Guild. And this book here goes into what's known as the Guild Wars. The thing I love most about Poison Elves, I do love the paneling, the writing, but just like even here, the acting, like it's some subtle changes, but it makes a world of difference. And then we get like this panel layout, which, I love this one so much. Because at first glance, like especially looking as a whole, it doesn't seem that great. But when you read it with the text, it really works well. Especially because it's like our main character Lucier's in the foreground. It feels like he's losing ground here. Then especially with this being over here. And usually I'm not a fan of having like word balloons cross like this. But like it emphasizes this moment here, especially him in the focus. Then kind of coming down to Luce, him taking off his jacket, and it's like all this build-up tension. This made me laugh like 100%. And that's the thing about this book. It's violent, it's kind of juvenile, but it's surprisingly deep. So it's like there are times I'm laughing, there are times I'm like having a ball, and then there's other times where I'm like, holy crap, I did not agree to look into like the human psyche and soul with a bunch of elves. And like I said, pinups, women, yeah, he spends a little extra time. I won't lie though, like even like moments, I love this moment because of this cartoony and just the thud. Like it is some great stuff. So I'm going to skip around a little bit more, but he eventually makes his way into the sanctuary, and we got some prose here. Now what's interesting is, and he gets this from Dave Sims, you get these elaborate great drawings. And this is a conversation between the two brothers. And truthfully, like, you know, it's like, I don't know, it's like, prose. This is done so well, though. And especially because it's like, I get a lot of detail in a short amount of time, so I can kind of go back to the action and stuff. And the other thing is, whenever, like, these prose moments kind of get carried out, there's a heavier weight to it. Like, you get a little bit more seriousness with it. So he uses it in great ways. Like he doesn't overuse it, but yeah, it's something you have to get used to. He did in the first one. He's doing it in I think it's just become a staple. Now, some things like it's kind of the thing with Creator Own. You can kind of tell like what people are into at the time and what they're looking at. This is clearly some like him watching some kung fu. I won't lie, I had a hard time understanding this character just because of the dialogue. Didn't like age that well. That said, there are some great moments. Like this page made me laugh 100%. Just the simple like meditation, and that's the kind of character Luce is. It's like, yep, he would do that. And once again, like some great action sequences. Like you know what's going on. You can clearly read it. And the other thing with Poison Elves, so I won't spoil it, but this goes away where it's like here I kind of thought, I'm like, okay, this is how it's like, this is what happened, this is how it's going to wrap up, this is how he's going to get out of it, you know, he's going to be in trouble, but like A to B to C. This page right here though, it takes a completely left turn that makes 100% sense, where I'm like, no, this is solid, this is logical, and it moves the story in an interesting way. And that's the kind of thing I like about this. Now this, oh man, this issue right here, this is another one. So who is this book for? It's like, yes, it's people who love fantasy, it's people who love indie, punk. I would also say for people who are creators, like, man, if you're into creating comics, this has some crazy ideas of how to execute the idea or execute the medium. So this whole issue, you got all these panels of him getting ready for his first assassination, his first job. So even here, it's like him dressing everything, getting prepped and prepared. But what's interesting is you have these little bits of dialogue. And what comics have taught us, dialogue goes along with panel. Panel goes along with dialogue. But as you read it, it clearly doesn't relate to the images you see. So every image here is Luce getting ready for his first job. The dialogue is the mayor and the cop. And it's interesting because it's this interesting dynamic, because it's him talking about the sanctuary, what he knows. So it's like we get to experience Luce's first job, but at the same time, you learn like how much the cops know and don't know as we learn more about this society. So you're learning like what the antagonists don't know and what we, the audience, should know. It's really well done. And it's even little things, because like, I mean, the other thing with joining this, one of his fears was like they wouldn't want violence and sex. Truthfully, they told him it's like you need to amp it up. But like, it's little things like they don't like witnesses. And this was a fun read because it creates a certain amount of tension with this, especially with like I said. Well, and I guess the other thing is, it's clear he's a master storytelling visually, but also using dialogue in an interesting way. In a way like, yeah, I never would have thought about this. And he loves to do this as well, where it's like mirroring the panels. And it's a great, like I said, this is a great idea and a great issue. And man, like I said, now here's the other thing with Poison Elves. Kind of go from something serious to something goofy. So like the next hit, this is more feels like a gag, because it's him literally in drag, killing this guy. And like I said, I'm going to start skipping ahead a little bit more. So here's the original image for the cover. I kind of wish they kept. This is another thing he does, which I always find interesting. The action's in focus, then like the background's not in focus. And it's the kind of thing, it's like, it doesn't always work, but here I think it works so well. In some ways, like, I feel like this image isn't as strong without the hatching behind it. And like I said, it's Luce. He tries to do well, but he is a product of his environment, and he is a bastard, like no questions asked. And he has a lot of enemies. Oh, this was the other guy. So we met this character in the first volume, Jance, his friend. And what's interesting is Jance is joined with the police, not because of like a sense of duty or responsibility. It's because he's bored. It's like, this is something to fill the time. And it's like, yeah, if you lived a long life, that actually makes a lot of sense. Because we learned in the first volume, for every elf year, it's 17 human years. And they can live for thousands of years. So it's like, yeah, that makes sense. The other thing I like with this one, they separate these by different like sections. So Sanctuary, Vivisection. Some great storytelling. You get some more moments with Cassie and Luce. Cassie's kind of explaining how the world works. Luce, this is a story about his past. So this one's actually interesting because it feels like a full-on novel. And here's another. I'm not going to spoil what happens here, but this is the other thing with Poison Elves I love. He'll show you a sequence where you don't quite understand what's going on. You're kind of like, okay, this seems kind of random. And then later on, he'll come back around to this. So it's like, oh, okay, we know about this event, but we don't know the full story. And like I said, another great thing, like Yusa, I mean, look at sound effects. But then this is just such great, like, especially fading off, him getting knocked out. And we're brought back to this SOB. So this is a character from the first one. This guy, he's a weird character. Okay, so most of the story takes place in the physical realm. Whenever you see him, it is the subconscious. It's inside Luce's head. But here's the thing, and his name is Parchina? I don't know what he is. They haven't revealed it yet. I don't know if he's a demon. He's clearly a creature that wasn't born of Luce, but he lives in Luce's consciousness. And he definitely thrives on Luce's like anger and violence. And this issue, oh my gosh, this is the issue. I won't lie, it definitely made me go, holy shit. Because I couldn't believe where they went with this issue. And here's the thing, I want to talk about this issue. Because I posted this page on NMC and everyone's like, what's the big deal? I want to talk about this so bad. I don't want to spoil this moment. Especially because this is something they built up in issue 1 in the first book. I'm actually going to skip ahead a couple pages. But man, this explains Luce to a T. Like, yeah, he's a bastard, but you can now understand a lot of his motivations. And that's what I like about this. It's definitely... This series, like I said, it hits hard at times. And what's crazy is, like I said, this character feels like he feeds on his violence. It could be like his suppression. But it feels like at some times he is there, like he is the biggest support Luce will ever have. It's complex stuff for a, comic about elves and like medieval times. This is another, like, speaking of art-wise, I love what he does. So Janice is kind of talking about times with Luce, but then we get this, and here's, like, some of my favorite panels in this have no dialogue, but it's kind of zooming in. You get the idea of, like, that thick, old glass, and there's Luce. Happens to be in the background. Great fight sequence, action. I don't want to... My goal here is, like, I do want you all to read this. I don't want to just be like, and then this happens, which leads into this. But there are some issues I want to talk about. But yeah, this was... The other thing is, too, with this, like I said, he sets up moments that pay off in the future. This issue I loved. Like, this is something you can only get from independent work. Sex and violence. So, especially like, man, that's just a great image. So what is sex and violence? This whole issue is 2 stories going on at once. It is Cassie and Luce having sex. But then between it, it's all the different killings that they do. Because they do work for assassins. An Assassin's Guild. And what's interesting is there's no dialogue. Like, every page is kind of built this way. But you get these great moments, especially where it's like, you get to see Cass and Luce and how this is a job. Now, I got to be careful because there's a little bit not safe for work, But, now here's the thing. Great art? Yes. Is it gratuitous? Yes. But it's also... I guess the thing about it is, what I liked about this is all of a sudden I felt like I knew the characters a little bit better afterwards. And it's the kind of thing, and the iconography of showing like making love, making like having sex with brutal death. Well, like I said, it's clearly like this isn't a job they enjoyed. This isn't a lifestyle that they wanted, but here they are. It's like I said, I can't imagine this being in like another book. And you get a sense of who they are as characters. And like I said, the very end with him holding the cigarette, like her being content, and him kind of looking off, especially after what we learned, it's an interesting read. Then you get like dialogue, group scenes, and he does a great job because this feels like you're hanging out with like the band, you know what this feels like? This feels like when you work like at a restaurant job after work. That's what this feels like. It's a bunch of professionals kind of blowing off. Oh man, like that is such a great pose. Like, okay, this one, the Night of the Marauder. I have to talk about this one a little bit. There's a couple more I have to talk about. This is a great moment between Cass and Luce, especially because this is where I fell in love with Cass. Especially, it started off here, and like I said, great cartooning. He definitely loves, like, he'll take his time with Cass. This page right here, though, with this dialogue. And I don't, like I said, I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to be like, this is why. But she breaks him down to a point that this feels like something Drew went through. And it's like, it's kind of clear. It's like, this was a moment in his life. Now, tender, sweet heart moment, but this is Poison Elves, and we get the return of the Purple Marauder. This dude is a weird pervert that, like, basically hates women, and especially, like, couples. And what's interesting is, this is like, Cass is basically like, look, Luce, I'll back you up, but I only murder because I have to. It's a job. You know, this isn't my thing. After listening to this idiot, she's like, I will help you murder him. And he's a character, like I say, he appeared in the first volume. I think he's based off the Roach off of Cerberus. Just a funny character. But then all of a sudden, our boy Luce gets knocked out again by the cops. And what's interesting is you get this page with like his friend writing down in this frustration. And like I said, this is a great use of the prose because there's no dialogue. Like it's him not knowing and frustrated. And this leads into Guild Wars, which our man Luce gets kidnapped and captured. Now, I'm not going to go through all this. Oh, wait a minute. I will go through this though. So while this is going on, we have this moment with these characters. So what's interesting is you'll have these prose moments go back to torture. A lot of torture, a lot of black. Goes back to this. And you start getting into this rhythm that works well, especially because it's like what they're talking about kind of plays into this. I mean, look at that. Like that is some outlaw cartooning at its best. And you find out there's a new guild. Well, we're now back in his psyche. And this is a crazy issue. Because it's basically Pachinko trying to get him to get up, get angry, and react. And it's like, and like I said, this at first sight, like, that's a lot of dialogue. It's a fun read, because especially some of them, like, where is it? World runs out of beer. Impossible. Death. Oh. Vampires. Nope. Black workers. Idiots. No. Cop. Like, he's trying to piss him off. Taxes. Oh, almost. Boy, are you out of there. OJ verdict. I like orange juice per shit. The purple manager, you know. And it's just like, it's fun moments like this. This literally got the biggest laugh out of me. Just the straight bam. It's almost Looney Tunes, but it makes sense in this setting and dialogue. Or in a setting. And it's like I said, it's just fun cartooning. Because he's doing stuff where I'm like, yeah, no one else would do it this way. And then, yeah, and of course, like this issue is violence incarnate. Which is a lot of fun, especially in these rougher, like, art. But he does a lot of, I don't know, it's a lot of creative stuff. Like, especially showing him dodging the knives. Some of these actions, like this panel, like here, I remember I stopped and paused on. This right here showing the roughs, like, it works when you're reading it. He makes a lot of choices that, like, when you're caught up in reading it, it just makes sense. I mean, like, Luce is the worst, but he's he is a monster, but man, is he good at what he does. Here's the other crazy thing. So cops are trying to figure out what's kind of going on. They get one of the guys, and you learn too, like, this is an assassin's guild, but Luce is a monster, like, he's a level that most people aren't prepared with. And this is a crazy storyline. Bloodhounds. I would love to show you Bloodhounds. The problem with Bloodhounds, I don't want Omar to get in trouble. This is straight up a serial killer. But what's interesting is this is a serial killer in this medieval world. So like I said, you get these interesting stories with the cops. Especially like that's a great page spread. This was interesting though too. After everything, it was Luce talking about his life, like where he is now, where he was as a kid, and especially where was it? Talking about his relationship with Cass. I think it was in here. He talks about like being an artist, about making the choice of not giving up on what brings you passion. And this is clearly like, this feels like Drew talking to friends, family. Like, this is his response to people being like, why are you still doing this comic? When are you going to get a real job? This is a series, I won't lie, I feel like with book 3, I'm going to go back and read this, book 1 and book 2. I love this like 3-page panel spread. Like, it's such a great moment. But with this, we get the guild war between the two assassins guilds. And it's a fun issue. Like, once again, a lot of violence, a lot of blood. The other interesting thing is, I'm not going to ruin it here, but there's a moment, you don't know what really happened, and all of a sudden, like, they kind of, both characters, Luce and this cop, talk about from their point of view. And we get the return of one of my favorite characters, Hina, the ex-wife, especially this one right here. What's your business in Mandre, madam? Ask me one more question, and I will fry your partner. Excuse me? Like, her and Luce were one of my favorite ones. So like I said, it's interesting to see him in a new relationship. And this one sets up a lot of stuff for the next issue. Sorry, you can probably hear Ab. She's being a little brat. And we're kind of left on a cliffhanger. Then we got, now I feel like this is kind of because of me, but we got like some art showing off, like it coming to Sirius. But then we get some extras, like some pinups and stuff. Not a lot of wasted white. So, which is nice to see. Like Elf the Other White Meat. This pinup, I love this pinup, especially the monthly, but it's like, it feels so 90s. It feels what is Elf, Poison Elves. Also this one right here, great image of Luce. Drew the Wanderer. And then Final Vellum with the tattoo. Final here. That's the book. So, do I think this is for everyone? No, I won't lie. I don't think it is. If you made it this far, I think it's for you. It's a book I enjoy reading. Like I said, it's not always perfect. Like, some of the mark making is not the best. Some of the, and I can nitpick. We can go through and nitpick. But man, one thing this book does well, though, it's got heart, like more heart. I don't know. It shows, yeah, it's got flaws, but man, when it shines brighter than most. And this is one, I am so happy I took a chance on these. I am so happy I have this in my collection. And like I said, for better or for worse, I am in for the whole 5-volume set. So, rest in peace, Drew, but thank you for the memories. Thank you for this book.